Okay. Okay guys, let's get started. Hopefully we can finish this in 2 hours. I'm not sure, it's going to be a long class. So the next video it's uploading now, so hopefully it will be uploaded somewhere during this lecture. My computer is working while I'm working. Okay. So everything up until this point was basics, very much basics. We haven't actually done. We did pharmacology, the basics. We haven't actually touched on drugs yet. We haven't gone into detail on any drugs yet. So why is because you need a base understanding, like the pyramids. You don't build a pyramid from the nose to the top. Like you build a pyramid with a base first. So the reason why is because we have to have a good understanding first before we even start going into the drugs. Otherwise you'll just be confused and then it'll be done. Okay. So now we're starting with the autonomic nervous system. I've touched on a few things about it and I'm going to walk into this again, but I haven't gone into any detail yet. So today hopefully we can get through some of it. We won't get through all of it, some of it. So you have 2 classes left before the end of this term and then you have a test on 4 April. So hopefully you guys really have to pay attention to stay with me these last 2 weeks, because these last 2 weeks are the most fundamental for understanding everything going forward. If you lost these 2 weeks, you will be lost for the rest of the year. Yes, it sounds terrible, but it's because it is terrible. If you get lost now, you really are lost and you really will struggle with this course for the entire year. So just try your best for these 2 weeks and then you know what's going to happen. On that note as well, I see that only 90 people actually watched the video, and I see that this class is not even half of this class, and in the other class there's also not half of that class. So that means like 170 people are not in class and only 90 people have watched the video. So that must mean like a bunch of people haven't actually touched the work at all. Yes. so I can't help that. That's why you have the videos. I can't help that. I've tried my best to get you guys as much information as you can get, and from there you have to help yourselves. Really have to help yourselves. I think after today you'll see why. So on this slide, and I don't know why I don't have my laser pointer with me, you'll see a lot of new terms. So can we just go into that one there, for example? Describe the mechanism, symptoms, and treatment of organophosphate poisoning. So the mechanisms itself of each specific drug, well, you have to kind of learn all of them, but the mechanisms, the basis of all mechanisms we have already done in pharmacodynamics. So we've touched on all the mechanisms. How exactly a drug works till it's minute detail you study, but all the basics of an antagonist, an inhibitor, a blocker, competitive this, all of those basics we've kind of touched on. So you should be able to understand whenever we talk about an antagonist now. If you talk about an inhibitor, if you talk about a blocker, if you talk about competitive antagonism, if we talk about a full agonist, if we talk about intrinsic activity, all of those things you should understand by now. If you talk about a receptor, if we talk about a neurotransmitter, all of those things must be base. So if I've lost you with those ones now, this will be an interesting lecture for you. Or you will fall asleep and this will not be interesting for you. Okay. Generally speaking, once again, same thing applies. I can mix and match all of these terms. I can make them into anything as long as the thing I'm testing here is the principle. So the principle I can jumble together to get different questions, but I'm still testing the same principle. Okay. So maybe I shouldn't start with this slide. Let's start with this slide. So did I hear a question? Okay. This slide here. So you know you have a bunch of different kinds of nervous systems. Did you know that? So today we are going to hone in on the peripheral, the autonomic nervous system. What's the big difference between the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system? What's the big difference between the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system? Yes, voluntary and involuntary, absolutely. So today we are talking about all of the things around the involuntary. This is going to happen a lot today because some of these words are tough. Today we're going to hone into all of those things dictating the involuntary actions in our bodies, and that's the autonomic nervous system, and that's subdivided into the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So before we go any further, if you talk about sympathetic, we're also talking about adrenergic. If you talk about parasympathetic, we're also talking about cholinergic. Okay, please remember that. because I might mix and jumble them together. Adrenergic meaning adrenaline. Cholinergic meaning I don't know what, cholinergic. Okay. So that's the way we refer to it. I don't actually know why cholinergic is cholinergic. Beyond the point. So involuntary body movements, network of nerves. Let's go here quickly. So whenever we talk about these two nervous systems, you have to understand that they both start at the very top, at the brain. So you can't see it, but the brain is there on top, like above the M. You see the M? But imagine the brain is on top of the M. So it starts from the central nervous system. All of these involuntary actions are generated in your hypothalamus. So they start there, they run down your spinal tract, and then they end up somewhere. You can just follow the cues here to see where they end up. So they could end up in your gallbladder, your gastrointestinal tract, your lung, your heart, your salivary glands. Same side, same this side. Can you see that? So from your hypothalamus, a nerve is running down to a effector organ or to a target site. Can we see the target site? Because your brain, the part of your hypothalamus, wants to control this so this happens. So if you want to go urinate, that's involuntary, let's do something else. If you want to digest your food, something needs to happen in your gastrointestinal tract. Because if you just eat food and stays in your stomach and doesn't move to your small intestine, food won't be digested, you won't absorb it. So your involuntary nervous system needs to take that food and it needs to pump it through, move it along the gastrointestinal tract into the small intestine, and then it can be absorbed. So all of these involuntary things are things your body needs to let happen. Those things need to happen. And this nervous system is how your body makes it work. So this is a bunch of messages from the hypothalamus to all of these organs and things on the side, and then we get an action or action happening. So if it was the heart, it could be that the heart slows down if it's on the cholinergic side. If it's on the adrenergic side, that means the heart must speed up. But I think I'm going to confuse you too much if I go that deep. I'm going to try and build this up slowly. Are you guys with me so far? Do you understand that this nervous system is linking your hypothalamus of your brain to involuntary things in your body, things you do not control? Your gut, your lungs, you do control your lungs to some degree, but your lungs, for example, the airways themselves, the bronchioli, you don't control their tone at any given time. You don't know how much bronchodilation or bronchospasm you have at any given time. So your lungs could be like this at this moment. You can't control the expansion of the bronchioles themselves. That's autonomic. You can control the breathing because you're controlling the skeletal muscles, the intercostal muscles, but you're not controlling the bronchioles themselves. Your blood pressure. Can you control your blood pressure? A little bit. But the baseline blood pressure as you're walking around, can you control that? Not really. So there is the adrenergic system innervates meaning it kind of branches into. Do you know what innervate means? Yes. So your arteries themselves have muscles around them. And the tone of those muscles is dictated by the adrenergic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic system causes them to contract and not to release, but mostly to contract. So your sympathetic system would cause vasoconstriction, increasing blood pressure. Am I making sense so far? Not really. Okay. From where should I restart quickly? The top. Okay. Let's use an example quickly. Think of something you can't control. And then give it something to me and I'll turn it into an example. Think of something you can't control. Breathing when you sleep. Okay, that's from the medulla. The medulla. Okay, so the autonomic nervous system isn't responsible for that specifically. So let's use something else. Think of. Okay, I'm going to use one. Think of digestion. Think of when you see food. Not seafood, seafood. When you see food, how do you start salivating? Do you think about salivating? No. You don't think about it, automatically happens. From where does that signal come to salivate? Hypothalamus. Hypothalamus tells your body, oh my word, there's food, we're in the right place, I can relax, I don't have to run, I'm not nervous. You can eat the food, and then your body starts preparing. So that's all autonomic. your body's autonomic nervous system taking over. So that signal starts in the hypothalamus, and that is in the sympathetic side, and it's running down your spinal cord. And where is it exactly? Salivatory glands. Can you see it there? Left hand side, eye, blood vessels, salivatory glands. No, sorry, wrong side, right side. Parasympathetic salivary glands. Can you see it? So this is your body's way of communicating from the brain to the rest of the body. Does that make sense? Okay. I think if I'm going into too much detail, I might accidentally lose you guys. So what I need you to understand from the very, very start is that these nervous systems are there, have always been there, can't be changed. We can act on them with drugs, but they've always been there. And just like these systems, just like the autonomic nervous system, there are different systems with different molecules or different transmitters and receptors that dictate how that system works. So with this system, we're not changing anything about the system has always been there. We introduce drugs into this system and we influence this system. Is that making sense? Okay. So involuntary, I think I've discussed a lot of this. Respiratory rate. Yeah, I don't think it actually belongs there. So let's think about digestion, heart rate, pupillary response. Those are easy ones. Sympathetic, parasympathetic. So on the one side, it's all about running away. The sympathetic system is all about running away. So you would perceive a fear, you would perceive something that's dangerous, and you would try to fight against it or run away. That's the adrenergic side, the sympathetic side. The other side is the rest and digest side. Okay, is that making sense? Have you done that before in Hub? Okay, so that's good news at least. And what I want you to understand is that it's an all or nothing kind of a thing. You're not semi-between them. Okay, you kind of are semi-between them, but for purposes of understanding pharmacology, think about these two as ultimate opposites of one another. It's either you fight or flight, you run away from something, or you completely relax. So if a drug is an agonist this side on a sympathetic receptor like beta 1, you get the adrenergic effect. You get zero parasympathetic effect. I think that'll make more sense as we go with the receptors themselves. But for purposes of understanding pharmacology, think of all or nothing. Don't think of the medium, the in-between. All or nothing. Complete opposites of one another. Can you remember we discussed physiological antagonism? Do you remember that term? Physiological antagonism is antagonism that works on different systems, different receptor systems with different neurotransmitters. So that's these two. They are complete opposite of one another, and they result in opposing effects with completely different receptors. And I hope you remember that from back in the day, because here's a practical example for you now. Okay. Maybe if I do go here first, it'll make more sense. No, wait. No, this is the right one, yes. Okay. So, I think we've established now, we've got parasympathetic and sympathetic. Now I want to zoom in a little bit more, and I want to tell you what runs along that nerve fiber from the brain until the effector organ. Kidney, liver, whatever. Okay, starting CNS, then we go down. That first part there, you can see in both sides there. That first part of the neuron, in both sides, sympathetic and parasympathetic are exactly the same. So both of them have a neurotransmitter acetylcholine. So both of them have the same receptors and the same neurotransmitter. Does that make sense? But then they differentiate. The adrenergic side, we've got norepinephrine or noradrenaline. And on the cholinergic side, we have acetylcholine and the mescaline receptors. Does that make sense? So in the middle, they're the same. They're working with the same acetylcholine and the same nicotinic receptors. The message is conveyed the same way. Then they differentiate. So after the ganglion, we call that thing there the ganglion. After the ganglion, they specialize. They have a specific neurotransmitter and a specific receptor system. Does that make sense? Is that making sense? Let's go to this slide quickly. So, same thing counts here. Can you see all these black dots? These black dots here. That's the ganglion. So that's just a way of representing that same ganglion. So all of the nerves from the spinal cord outwards, here and here, are the same. So they are the same, meaning they have acetylcholine, that's the neurotransmitter they connect with, and they have nicotinic receptors. So this nerve, this side, has a nicotinic receptor there. Same with that one, same with that one, same with that one, same with that one. Is that making sense? And then after that, over here at the end effector organ, it will be in sympathetic case, adrenergic receptors, and in the parasympathetic case, cholinergic receptors. We'll get into those receptors just now. Slowly but surely. Okay. So, understanding that, if I gave a person a nicotinic antagonist, remember this is a nicotinic receptor here. If I give a person a nicotinic receptor, do I block both nervous systems? Yes. Because the nicotinic receptor is in both ganglia, for both sides. So I block both sides completely. Is that making sense? So do you think a nicotinic receptor is very dangerous? Yes, that's why we don't use it anymore. So we used to use it for hypertensive crises, but we don't use it anymore because it completely blocks off both sides. Okay. So your side effects become huge. I hope this is all making sense so far. It's making sense so far? I'm very happy. Okay. Cholinergic side, we have the muscarinic receptors, and these terms are all must-know terms, have to memorize. There's a lot of understanding and memorizing work going on in this section here. Okay. Anything M1, M2, M3, know it. Anything M4, M5, don't worry about it for now. So you have a section in your nursing that you're going to do your central nervous system drugs. And then we can discuss M4, M5 there. But for purposes of understanding the peripheral, the autonomic nervous system, we're going to do M1, muscarinic receptors 1 to 3. Okay. Now before we go any further, I want you to know that M1 causes contraction, causes activation, contraction, stimulation. M2 causes inhibition, relaxation, dilatation. Is that making sense? So if you had a M1 on a muscle and I stimulate that M1 receptor, the muscle would contract. If you have an M2 on that same muscle, not an M1 anymore, but an M2, muscarinic 2 receptor, and I stimulate that M2 receptor, the muscle will not contract, it will relax. So then if the muscle was like this, and you agonize the M2 receptor, it would fall flat. Does that make sense? So knowing that, if you have an M2 receptor on the heart, what will happen to the heart? Exactly, it relaxes. If you had an M1, it would? Exactly. I'm happy, this is working out very well. So M1 and M3 are the same. M2, relaxation. M1, M3, activation, contraction, stimulation. This is going to happen a lot today. Okay, everyone with me so far? I'm surprised you guys seem so fresh today. What happened? Is the weekend good for you? Something happened. Okay. This is basically the same explanation I'm giving again. I don't want to explain the same thing 15 times. Let's quickly go here. Okay. I'm hopping back and forth between them. So I want to let everything just make 100% sense. So if you're looking at this and you're looking at your book, you'll read preganglionic fiber. The preganglionic fiber refers to the fiber before the ganglion. So that's the fiber from the brain to the ganglion, and then from the ganglion to the effector is the postganglionic fiber. Okay, so you know that the preganglionic fiber always contains a neurotransmitter acetylcholine, and it communicates with the ganglion and nicotinic receptor there. And then it differentiates. So from the ganglion to the effector itself, or the organ, is a specialized one. So in the case of the sympathetic system, the adrenergic system, we would get noradrenaline being released here. And now you know, well not now you know, but noradrenaline would bind to the adrenergic receptors. If we do have the same principle this side, what receptors would we have here? Damn it. Muscarinic receptors. So if I have an M1 receptor here, what will happen afterwards? If the M1 receptor is activated by the neurotransmitter? Contraction or activation or stimulation? Alright. If I have an M3? Okay. And if I have an M2? You guys are very on top of it today. Okay. Now on the other side, I couldn't hear that one. Anyways, on the other side, we have We have a parasympathetic side. I've told you about the muscarinic receptors now. On the adrenergic side, we have alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, and beta 1, 2, 3. So for understanding PHA 204, you don't have to worry about beta 3 at all. Worry about alpha 1, 2, beta 1, 2. So same principle counts as what counted previously. Anything with a 1 activates, anything with a 2 deactivates. Well, I'm saying that, but I'm kind of lying, but we'll get there. Kind of lying. So beta 1 on the heart would give you what? Activation, contraction. Beta 2 on the lungs would give you relaxation. So your bronchioles would do. Remember, there's muscles around your bronchioles. So if you relax these muscles around the bronchioles, what will happen? Yeah, you get expansion, exactly. And then you can breathe. Asthma pump, that's what it is. That's what it contains. So one of the most difficult things about the receptor systems is knowing where what is located. So knowing where what is located will take a little bit of, well, study work. But I have an explanation that I think will help a lot of you make sense of it. Okay. Oh, you have a table 5.1 in your book. I wrote this down long ago. I hope it's still the same. But there's a table in your book that has all of the receptors on the one side and in what system you find what receptor you get, where exactly you get it. So you know on the heart you have M2 receptors and you have beta 1 receptors. Do you have the table open? I just want to double check it.
This one or this one?
This one looks fine. Wait, no, this one's too small. And that's the heart. Yes. Page 52 in your book. So look at that. There's a table looking like that. That table you'll just have to memorize, unfortunately. Yes, I promise you. So but remember, it's simple. Think about it. If you have a beta 2 receptor there, you know relaxation. If you have a beta 1 receptor, you know activation. Okay, there's a little story to let this make more sense to you. Maybe I'll do the little story now. Can I borrow this? I think it'll be better if I borrow it. For the next section. Now, think about running away from something dangerous. You were in, I used an example of a snake just now, the snake, but what are you very scared of? Lion is too typical. You just watched Lion King, now you want a lion. Like, no, let's use something else. Fly, coronavirus. Let's use coronavirus. So one of your friends has the coronavirus. You can't fight him, because if you fight, you're going to get the coronavirus. So you have to run away. So to run away from the coronavirus, what needs to happen? What does your autonomic nervous system need to do for you to run away? So let's start with blood flow. Let's talk about blood flow first of everything, okay? So if you want to run away, where should the blood go? Muscle. Okay, so the arteries to your muscles, what receptor do they need to have? But remember, arteries have muscles around them. If the muscles contract, there's less blood flow. Remember, if you're drinking a milkshake, you drink a milkshake out of a thin straw, it's very difficult to get the blood or the milkshake through. If you drink a milkshake out of a thick straw, it's easy to get the milkshake. Is it making sense? So do you want a thicker straw or a thin straw? Thin straw. Thick straw, yes. You want more blood to flow to your muscles. So what receptor must be on your arteries towards your muscles? The blood vessels to your muscles. What receptor must be there? Okay, but we're in the adrenergic system because we're running away. Remember, fight or flight. Coronavirus, you want to run. You can't race now, you must run first. Alpha 2 could be right, but just isn't in this case, but it could have been right. So the beta 2 receptor. The alpha 2 is very specific. We'll get into that a bit later. The alpha 2 is kind of funny. But you should have a beta 2 receptor on your, you do have a beta 2 receptor on the arteries towards your muscles. Is that making sense? Because you want vasodilation of the blood vessels that supply blood to the muscles because you want to run. Your muscles need blood to function. The metabolic functions need blood and need nutrients, need glucose. Does that make sense? Okay, what about the blood flow to your skin? Do you want more blood flow to your skin or less? More. Can your skin help you now? How would it help you? Sweat. But maybe the corona sticks to sweat. And So what do you want? Do you want more blood? Okay, so corona is a nice example, but let's say it's all about blood flow. No, it is all about blood flow. Can your skin help you to run faster? Okay, so do you want blood to your skin? Okay, you still need a little bit, but less. So what receptor do you think you have on the arteries towards your skin? Beta 1 could have been right, but in this case it's alpha 1. So, but it's the ones. You see the ones are coming up. So there's a little bit of memorizing work here, unfortunately, but you have to understand the ones. So there's alpha 1 receptors on the arteries towards the skin. Okay, let's think about blood flow towards the gastrointestinal tract. So you've just eaten a delicious Happy Meal. Happy Meal. You're not old enough yet, Happy Meals. So you want to save this Happy Meal and you want to digest it later. Can you extend the energy to digest that meal now while you're running away from corona? You can't worry about digesting now. You have to get away first. You have to save your meal before you become corona's meal. So you have to run away. Okay. So knowing that, what do you think needs to happen to the gastrointestinal tract? Think about blood flow first. Do you want our blood flow going through our gastrointestinal tract while we're not absorbing? Not at all. So we have less blood flow to the gastrointestinal tract. So what receptors on the arteries towards the gastrointestinal tract? B1. Okay, but it's alpha 1. Beta 1 is very specific. Let me just put this one out there. Beta 1 is very, very specific. Heart. Beta 1 is heart. Okay. So, but the principle remains. The principle remains. Alpha 2 is also very specific. So you really have a lot of beta 2 and alpha 1 going on. Okay. Now, what about the sphincters and the muscles in your gastrointestinal tract? Do you want, let's start with your stomach itself. Do you want the pyloric sphincter to tighten or do you want it to release? Tighten, because you don't want food to move through while the blood flow is very low, because then you'll just be wasting nutrients. So what receptor should be on the pyloric sphincter? Alpha 1. So all those sphincters throughout your gastrointestinal tract have alpha 1 receptors on them. So all of them contract and then they stop. Does it make sense? There's another reason why as well. And what about the muscles surrounding your gastrointestinal tract? Those longitudinal muscles moving food through your gastrointestinal. Those ones causing peristalsis, gastric emptying. What about those muscles? Must they be contracting or must they relax? Relax. So what receptors on them? B2. Alpha 2 is very specific. Beta 1 and alpha 2 are very specific. Okay, so you have to have beta 2 receptors there to let them relax. Otherwise they're contracting, but they're contracting against the closed sphincters. That can't work. And also you want all of these closures to happen in your gastrointestinal tract because you can't be running and pooping all the way. So you want everything to completely stop. Not now, later. Let's get away first. We can worry about the toilet later. Is it making sense so far? Okay, what about your vision? If you're running away, let's make this different. Let's make this once again a lion in the wild. If you're running away from a lion, where would you aim? Would you aim for somewhere close by or would you aim far? Far. So what needs to happen to your eyes? They must dilate. So your pupils themselves must dilate so they can let more light in. What about the lens inside of your eyes? The lens itself we call, hold on, it has a name. There is a nice little image somewhere in your book, but I'm not finding it now. The ciliary body and the lens itself, do you want the lens to become more flat or more convex? But remember, convex is nice for seeing things close to you. Your lens becomes more convex if you want to read. Do you want to read now or do you want to see where to run? You want to see where to run. So what must happen to your lens? It must relax. So beta 2 receptors once again. It causes the relaxation of the ciliary muscles in your eye. Okay. Is all of it making sense so far? Is it still difficult to memorize it? A little bit easier. If you think about the story, it becomes easier. And this is actually interesting. We don't have to go into that. Let's go. What about your bladder? Your detrusor, your bladder. What receptor is, if you're running away, what receptor is in your detrusor? Do you want your detrusor muscle to contract? The detrusor is around your bladder. The bladder contains urine. Do you want that muscle to contract? You want to run. If you're running and you're peeing, you're going to slip. So you need it to relax. So what receptors should be around that detrusor? Beta 2. What about the sphincter? The detrusor sphincter, I don't know what you call it. Once again, anatomy is not my thing. What receptor must be there? Alpha 1, because you want the urine to stay inside. You don't want the urine everywhere. Because you need to run. Okay. Let's discuss that. And just an interesting one. For me, this is interesting. You know, all of your little hairs, your follicles, your follicles all over your body. They have these little things called the pilomotor muscle. What do you call it? Wait, I saw the name just now. Yeah, pilomotor muscles. Those muscles have alpha 1 receptors on them. When you get a fright, your hair stands up straight. Have you seen that? That's because of this alpha 1 receptors that's in those little muscles. So when you get a big fright, they stand up straight. So isn't that kind of funny? Like, why do we want our hair to puff up? If you see a cat or a dog and they get a fright, their hair puffs up. Why is our hair puffing up? Evolutionary things, maybe? Okay. You don't have to go into that. That's just for fun. There is a whole section here on glucogenesis and glucogenolysis, which actually is very interesting. So let's do it. So if you want to run away, do you need more energy or less energy? Okay, what is glucose? Glucose is energy. Do we want more glucose or less glucose? More. So how do we get more glucose? You need glucose to be released. So if I'm holding on to this, are my muscles contracting or relaxing? This is glucose. So what must I do? Release it. So what receptor must be on your liver? Yes, your liver. P1, but then it's contracting. P2, so then you can release the glucose. Okay, then you release the glucose, then you have more glucose in your bloodstream. So glucogenesis and glucogenolysis are increased with beta 2 receptor activation. And this is an interesting one. I'll do this one as well. So you don't have to do this one for your class itself. I won't ask you this question, but it's interesting. So your fat cells, your adipose tissues, they have beta 3 receptors. So beta 3 receptors, when activated, completely degranulate that fat cell, and then you get more glucose and free fatty acids released from the adipose tissue. So it's your body's mechanism to protect yourself. So when you get a massive fright, your body tries to actually destroy the fat cells to create energy so you can run away. So it makes sense. So beta 3 receptors are actually on adipose tissue. A lot of the slimming tablets you get out there, those slimming tablets actually contain things that release more noradrenaline, like ephedrine. Ephedrine is one of the slimming tablets used back in the day. If you release more adrenaline, you stimulate more beta 3 receptors. If you stimulate more beta 3 receptors, more fat cells degranulate. If you have less fat cells, you have less. Exactly. Then you lose weight. That's exactly the idea behind it. Okay. All of us making sense, I hope? Okay, so now on the opposite end of the spectrum, what must happen if you want to relax? Yes, it's the question. Are you showing the fat? It looked like you had some. Look here, look. So, on the other side of the spectrum, you have now gotten away from corona, ne? You've gotten away from corona, you still have a happy meal inside of your stomach that hasn't been digested. The happy meal is still waiting for you. And as you were running away from corona, you were running through a cement factory and you breathed in cement particles. So you've breathed in a lot of dust, you have something you have to digest, and while you were running, you got to pee as well. So, what must happen while you are relaxing now at home? Okay, so let's start with your eyes. Do you want to see far or near? Because remember, if you go to the toilet, you take a cell phone with you and you read. So you need to see near. Otherwise, you can't finish the job. So you have to see near. So what must happen to your eyes? Mydriasis or meiosis? Bigger or smaller? Smaller. Meiosis is smaller for future reference. So they need to constrict. And what receptor gives us constriction? M1 or M3. M1, M3 activation. M2 deactivation. I just want to double check something quickly. Oh, the M1 is only in the brain because I was remembering here. So M3 is most likely the one there. Okay. Where am I? No, it doesn't matter. Okay, that's the eye. What about the blood flow? What do you want to happen to the blood flow? Does it matter? Not really, no. You don't have a big metabolic need at this moment, so your blood flow doesn't need to be directed anywhere. So the cholinergic system doesn't actually exert a lot of control over your arteries and your cardiovascular system. So a little bit on your heart, but not much else. What about your lungs? Do you want them to dilate or do you want them to constrict now? This is actually a very foolish question, because constriction never makes sense, but there is a reason why it actually makes sense. So you want your bronchioles to constrict. Why do you want them to constrict? So the surface area is smaller. If the surface area is smaller, the mucus can more effectively clean your bronchioles. Remember, as you were running away from corona, you ran through a cement factory. So you breathed in cement. Now your body needs to get that cement particles out of your lungs. How will your body do that? There are glands within your lungs, and they produce mucus. So how will we get those glands activated? Because we want those glands to produce mucus, so the mucus can trap all of the dust, and then the cilia can bring them up and you can swallow it down. You want to clean your lungs. Your body is cleaning your lungs now. So how do we activate those mucus glands in the lungs? Receptor-wise. Remember, we're resting and digesting now. We're in the cholinergic side. What receptor must be there? M3. So the M3 receptors activate or get activated, and then we produce more mucus. More mucus is secreted into the bronchioles, and then they catch all the dust. And the cilia, remember this? Do you remember cilia? The cilia just move it up until you swallow it down. You swallow the dust, it's not killing your lungs anymore. You're digesting it. Okay. Is it making sense so far? I see I've lost some of you. Where did I lose you? Where did I lose you? Hi?
Cement factory.
Where? Which free? No, tell me.
No, so you lost him in the cement factory.
Oh, no. So as you were running away from corona, you were making left turns and right turns. You didn't check where you were going. You lost the corona. You left corona and cement factory. Yeah, I didn't follow you there. Okay. I hope I have some of you at the very least. All right. So you want your lungs to narrow down so the surface area is smaller, and then the mucus can more effectively clear your lungs of all the particles. Is that making sense? Making sense? I'm not getting a lot of yeses here. Not making sense. So think of your lungs, guys. You were running away. Let's make this in the wild again. It doesn't have to be a cement factory. It could be anything. As you're breathing now, even in this classroom, you're breathing in a bunch of particles. You're breathing in things. You can't see those things. So your body has a defense mechanism. It produces mucus to catch those things. So your lungs are full of mucus at all times. Not enough to actually cause symptoms or problems, but enough to catch things. So as I'm breathing in now, I'm catching things in my lungs. Did you know that? So my body, the involuntary system, the cholinergic system, can make more mucus. So your body makes a lot of mucus to clear your lungs. So after I ran through a jungle, through whatever dust, and I got a lot of dust in my lungs now, what do I want my body to do? I wanted to make more mucus, and I wanted to narrow my lungs, the bronchioles themselves, so the area is smaller and the mucus can more effectively clear all the gunk out of my chest. Is that making sense? Thank you. Okay. And what about your gastrointestinal tract? What about the pyloric sphincter? Do you want it to relax? Remember, you ate a happy meal. The happy meal is still not part of you. It's inside of your gastrointestinal tract, but it's not inside of your bloodstream. So what do you want to happen here? Your pyloric sphincter must relax. So what receptor will be there? M2. 2 gives you relaxation. Remember, M2 gives you relaxation. What about all of those muscles? All of those muscles running throughout, do you want them to contract? Yes, because then the food is moving through to the right areas where it gets absorbed. So how does that happen? M3, exactly. What about your stomach acid? Do you want your stomach acid production to increase or decrease? Increase for digestion. So what receptor is there? Okay, this is one of the tricky ones, so M1 is there. No, and it's like chemistry. There's exceptions to a bunch of things here. But you get the general gist of it so far. As long as you get the gist, it's easier to study it. If you don't get the gist, it's so difficult to memorize all of this. Oh, this is so interesting. No, this is actually very interesting. I will discuss this in 2 seconds. I can't see anything else I really want to go into. Oh, what about your urine? Do you want to get rid of the urine now? Okay, so how do you do that? What must be on your detrusor muscle? M3. And what about the sphincter? M2, because you want it to relax. Open up so it can flow. Otherwise, you're peeing against the wall. You want the wall to go away. The sphincter to relax. Then on the liver, there are no. So there's a lot of cases where the cholinergic system doesn't oppose the action of the adrenergic system. So like the liver with glucogenesis and gluconeogenesis. So you're making more glucose. So that's also something you just have to memorize to a certain extent. But the thing I just saw that actually interested me a lot was about the uterus itself. So under normal circumstances, women have alpha-1 receptors in the uterus. But when they are pregnant, their body changes completely and they have beta-2 receptors in the uterus. Do you understand? Can you think of a reason why? So normal circumstances, if you're not pregnant, you have alpha-1 receptors in your uterus, meaning it contracts. But as soon as you become pregnant, you have beta-2 receptors in your uterus. Can you think of why? Yes. To accommodate the fetus and also to save it in a certain sense. Yes, because if you get a massive fright and you have an alpha-1 activation, your uterus contracts, you can have a miscarriage maybe. It's a possibility. But if you have beta-2 receptors there and you get a huge fright, it relaxes. So your body's natural instinct is actually to protect the baby. Isn't it interesting? Kind of cool if you think about it, isn't it? It doesn't look like it if I'm looking in your faces, but anyways. Okay. Yes. That's a psychological thing. So they always ask me this question, and there is no answer for it. The only thing I definitely know about it is that it's some underlying psychological issue. Yeah, that's all I have for you there. Hi? His question was, why when some people get scared do they pee in their pants? And I've tried to find the answer 1,000 times. Like every single time I get to the same non-existent conclusion. So the conclusion is that you have some underlying psychological issue and there's some malfunction. So why exactly it happens? Not completely clear. Psychology playing a big part? Definitely. How, to what extent and why? Not sure. Okay, does that make sense? Unfortunately, I hate that question because I can't answer it, but it is what it is. And I've tried to answer it 1,000 times, and I want to tell you I'll go look at it, but if I go look at it, I'll find the same answer again. Okay. Are you guys with me so far? How long have we been doing class now? 5 hours? No, only 5 minutes. Okay. I'm not sure if we should do a small break. Do you need a small break? No. Thank you. Okay, let's go on. So let's go over to this side here again. What I want to point out, I'll just use this. So, to some extent you understand how the receptors are spread out. And you understand that that's actually memorization work, and that's table 5.1 in your book. So you have to memorize it as fast as possible. Unfortunately. I can't help you memorize things. This section here, what did I want to exactly explain here? Is it about this one or the next one? Oh, no, I just want to point something out. So when you're looking at your book, you'll see the terms preganglionic fibers and postganglionic fibers, and you'll see long and short. Doesn't matter. So it's there. So we know the preganglionic fibers are short in the sympathetic system and the preganglionic fibers are long in the parasympathetic system. Do you think it matters? Not really, because we're only worried about the drugs and the receptors and the neurotransmitters. So how long or how short the nerve is has nothing to do with our drugs. So it doesn't really matter. So I'm not going to go into it, but I just want you to know when you look at it what exactly happens. So what if, I just want to put an example out and I want you guys to just give me input and then we'll take a small break. Let's say this is the heart. I have the heart here on both sides. So if I could draw, actually this is perfect. No, it's not perfect. Anyways, the heart is here. Can you see the heart there? Okay, you imagine. So the heart here, we have a muscarinic receptor there. What receptor is there? M2. The heart is an M2. What receptor is there? There is the adrenergic side. What receptor is there? B1. B1 and M2. You can kind of see it from where I'm standing. Okay, so if you get a massive fright and you're running away, what will happen here? Noradrenaline will be released and noradrenaline will bind to the beta-1 receptor, ne? and activate it, and your heart will beat faster. So what if I give you an antagonist? What if I block it there? What will happen then? Nothing will happen. So if I give you an antagonist and the beta-1 receptor is blocked off here, this norepinephrine or noradrenaline can't bind to the beta-1 receptor and can't elicit an effect. Does that make sense? So then your heartbeat won't increase. What if I gave you something that inhibited the breakdown of norepinephrine inside the cleft here? I think I'm going too far with this one here. Okay, take a small break, and then we'll redo that section, and then we'll go on to all the drugs themselves. So there is a small section on that. I think I'm going to confuse you if I do it right now, because I haven't gone through it on the slides yet. So 2 minutes. Take a 2-minute break, not more. 2 minutes. Stand up, stretch your legs. Don't walk around too far. Stay close enough. If you have to walk, then you have to walk. That's different. Oh, guys, stand up. Do you guys want to continue with class? Get the blood flowing. Stand up a little bit. You're going to fall asleep, please. Does anyone have a Cokie? 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 Yes! Thank you. Perfect. Let's go over this section here, then hopefully this last one will make sense. So I forgot to go over this section very quickly here. So this section is about how neurotransmitters are made and actually out, or not thrown out, how they are they undergo excytosis. How do you say that word? That's that word, exocytosis. Yes, exocytosis. So step 1 to step 6 is basically not as important for you guys here. So step 1 to step 6, actually complicated. You don't really go into a lot of detail with it. So just for some background, this is now nearing the effector site. So the effector site is your heart. I just want to show you this slide again. Where did I put it? This slide here. So remember, we have on both sides, we've got the adrenergic and we've got the cholinergic system. And these systems are going towards your heart. And now I've drawn the heart here. This is the effector site. Okay, are you happy with that? So now I'm taking this little nerve here, this part of the nerve. You can see this in here. I'm taking this nerve here and I'm zooming in on it. And this is the zoomed in picture here. Do you understand? Okay. So that's zoomed in picture. There's a lot of things going on. So step 1 to step 6 is all about how the neurotransmitter is actually made, and then what happens when the action potential reaches the last nerve terminal or the last piece of the nerve. So remember, this action potential started from the brain. Do you remember? Then it traveled to a ganglion. Then the ganglion transferred the signal to the postsynaptic ganglion. You know the other one. That was from here it's pre-ganglion, and then it goes to the ganglion somewhere there, and then it's post-ganglion. And then the post-neuron ganglion, that neuron that goes from the ganglion to the heart. So we're going this way. That neuron. So yes, that neuron going to the heart, that's the one we're zooming in on now. Are you guys with me so far? Okay, so action potential was generated, and the action potential went through the ganglion, and now it's going to the end effector site. The end effector in this case will be the heart. Is this clear? Okay, so as soon as that action potential reaches, you get a massive calcium influx into the cell here. And that massive calcium flux would actually cause these vesicles containing the neurotransmitter to release the neurotransmitter. Is that making sense? So this neurotransmitter is conveying the message to the organ itself. And the organ we're talking about in this case is the heart. Okay, is that fine so far? Okay, the noradrenaline is the neurotransmitter that was stored inside that neuron, inside that nerve. The noradrenaline is released, and the noradrenaline can now go and bind to receptors. So if this was the heart, it has a beta-1 receptor here. If it acts on the beta-1 receptor, you get activation. So there are more things involved in just that. What happens to all of the noradrenaline still floating around inside here? What happens to all of the other noradrenalines? Any ideas? So it's on the back here. I think I'm just making it very confusing with both things going on here. So look quickly on our list here. So we said we're skipping 1 to 6.